I'm Brian. I've been doing the Parents Association at EB for a few years, and this year doing middle school room rep coordinator. Room reps are the heart of EB's Parents Association, and I encourage everybody to be a room rep at some point. And there are many ways to get involved at EB Parents Association. We have some great roles, and especially as we come out of this pandemic. So we've been keeping the fire alive, right? We've been blowing on that ember of school spirit during the pandemic, and we're now returning to normal. And we're going to have a great year next year. And there's quite a few roles that you can get involved in. So what you can do is send an email to askpa@eb.org, askpa@eb.org, and we'll tell you some of the possibilities. One of them is sustainability efforts. Mike, who's on here, and Maria, who's on here, and I have been working on beefing up capacity for doing sustainability initiatives at EB, and that includes curriculum with the kids, and it includes community stuff like this. And if you'd like to get involved at that, we would love to have you. Write to askpa@eb.org. Tonight we're doing a raffle for a gift certificate for both Fillgood, zero waste store that Stephanie's going to talk about, well, issues around which she's going to talk about, and Alison's venture, which is Ends+Stems. And so we're going to just pick one of your names at random, and you'll get a gift certificate for attending tonight. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sasha Nouri, who is the Interim Development and Communications Director at EB, and we're very glad to have her. Welcome, Sasha. Take it away.
Thanks, Brian. So hello, everyone. And Brian did a great job of introducing tonight's session, but I am Sasha Nouri. I am the Interim Director of Development and Communications at EB, while Maylin Ha-Byers is on leave. I'm so pleased to introduce two wonderful members of our EB community who celebrate Earth Day meaningfully every day. Alison Mountford is the founder and CEO of Ends+Stems, a meal planning service designed to reduce household food waste and stop the effects of climate change. Alison works as a food waste consultant. And Stephanie Regni is the founder and owner of Fillgood, a zero waste home and body product store on Solano Avenue in Berkeley and online at fillgood.co. Stephanie created Fillgood to offer simple everyday solutions to the plastic pollution crisis. So Alison and Stephanie will spend the next hour talking about how we can keep meal planning simple, shop smarter, eat together, and generate less food waste. And at the end of this call, as Brian mentioned, we will be selecting two attendees to receive gift certificates to their wonderful companies. The way we will select the winner is by using a random name generating tool. So message your email in the chat and we'll copy and paste it into the name picker, and Brian will make, oh, Brian has a cute family with him. So good luck all. And as a reminder, you're welcome to put questions into the chat box on Zoom, and I'll do my best to include your questions in the Q&A at the end of this event. I'm so eager to hear Stephanie and Alison speak. So Stephanie, would you like to take it away?
Yep.
Great.
So I'm gonna share my screen. Good night, good evening, everyone. Sorry, share screen. Here we go. Okay, and I'm gonna do presentation mode. All right. Yeah, so, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about what we can all do for the planet when it comes to reducing disposable plastic. And my presentation tonight will be about like giving you tips and lots of ideas to adopt low waste habits. I'm not talking about zero waste habits because zero can be scary. So I'm gonna talk about low waste. Quick introduction. So I am French. I moved to the Bay Area in 2014. And then in 2017, I started Fillgood. So it's a zero waste store. We have a storefront in Berkeley on Solano Avenue. And it's also a refill service with home delivery. Think about it as like a milkman for your home bath and body products. But instead of milk, it's that kind of product. And so everything we sell is like, we work with sustainable products, and we are focused on compostable products, reusable or refillable. And I am super proud to say that since 2017, our customers have collectively avoided more than 13,000 pounds of plastic, which is almost 6 tons. So yeah, these are a couple of pictures of the store. And yeah, definitely we choose reuse over everything. So why did I start my zero waste journey? It actually started when I moved to the Bay Area, because like here there are like San Francisco is well known around the world for being a zero waste city. And there are so many, so many things happening here. So I became very curious about zero waste. And then unfortunately, what drives me is what I learned at that time. Things like the fact that by 2050, there will be more plastic in the oceans than fish if we continue at that trend. I added like resources on the presentation, so later I'll share it with you if you want to click on all the links. We also have 8 million metric tons of plastic that enter our oceans every year. Half of the plastic that is made every year is for single use. So think about plastic bags, food packaging, single-use utensils, all this stuff that are made and just last a couple of minutes and stay forever in our environment. Plastics are made from oil, so it has a direct impact on climate change and greenhouse gases emissions. Like every year since I started, there are new studies showing that we can find plastics and microplastics everywhere, even in the most remote island, as you can see on the picture at the bottom on the right. That island is in the South Pacific. No one lives there, and yet it is covered with plastic trash. Now there are new studies showing that food packaging contains a ton of chemicals that are harmful to human health. And this one from last year, that we ingest the equivalent in one plastic credit card per week. So these are all the reasons why I'm doing what I do. Another thing on top of that is the environmental injustice posed by the fact that plastic is made from oil, so it's made in refineries and people live around there, and it's highly polluting. So what can we do about that? Because the good news is that we can all do something. So we cannot recycle our way out of plastic because plastic is not really recycling. And I'll show it later. So the best solution we can do is just to use much less and turn off the tap. These are things that I did when I started reducing plastic in my own household before starting Fillgood. And so the first thing is that it has to become like a mindset in everything we do, and especially when we shop. So one thing that guides me is really the 5 R's. You probably heard of that. So it's the words refuse, reduce, reuse, rot for compost, and recycle. So this shows like the priority, and as you can see, recycling is at the bottom, and the first thing, the most efficient things that we can do are to refuse, reduce, and reuse. Another thing is I love that graphic called the hierarchy of needs. Today, when we need something, we have a tendency to buy new, when in fact, maybe we can already use what we have, we can borrow, we can swap with friends. Maybe you've done like close swaps with your friends already, we can thrift, we can make, and then eventually in the end, if really we can find what we need, then we can buy new. Another key to reduce that waste is to avoid single use, whether it's plastic, paper, cardboard, metal, whatever materials. Single use are still a huge waste of energy, a waste of materials, of natural resources. And so the more we can avoid single use, the better. And then keep in mind, because it's a lot, because it's like the opposite of the way our society works. Changing these habits takes time. Don't feel overwhelmed. Take it step by step, and start with the simple things that you can do every day. And this quote, to help motivate you, is from one of my favorite zero waste bloggers. So her name is Anne-Marie Bonneau, but she's not French. She only has the name. She lives in the Bay Area, and her website is called The Zero Waste Chef. She just published a book, and I love this quote from her that says that we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. Instead, we need millions of people doing it imperfectly. So do what you can. If you can reduce your plastic waste by like 25%, it's already huge. So I'm gonna dive into solutions, and for now, I'm gonna like illustrate that the 5 R's, and then I'll give you more examples. So for example, as you can imagine, the most impactful thing that we can do is just refuse things that we don't need, or for example, like free stuff like that people can give you, I don't know, when you go to conferences or when you go to events, and that we don't really need. That's a super powerful action. These are examples of things also that I now refuse to buy because I know there are better alternatives. So for years now, I don't buy paper towels anymore. And I'll show you, I'll just replace them with rags and it works just fine and I save money. I don't buy, for example, any type of wipes because the wipes themselves are made of synthetic materials. So they are going in the landfill, and then they are usually packaged in plastic. Anything like straws, utensils, any single use. Even when we organize a birthday party, I have like a pack of reusable metal stainless steel plates that we use. Produce don't need any packaging, especially not plastic wrap and styrofoam trays. Another so these are all examples. Chewing gums is, I know, the one that people react to usually because they're made of synthetic gums, which means that they are also have to be put in the trash. Sorry, just gonna drink a bit. So another great example of things that you can do is to reduce junk mail. Oops, sorry. So we all get a lot of junk mail, but there are really simple ways to reduce that. As you can see, like the impact of junk mail is huge. It's not, yes, there's plastic in it, but there's a lot of paper. And so a lot of, a lot of trees that are destroyed for nothing, because most of the time junk mail, we take it and then we put it in the trash or in recycling. So I'm gonna share with you like 3 great resources that I used and that really, really helped me reduce junk mail. So the first one is called catalog choice, and they have a long list of catalogs from a ton of companies. And usually they're gonna unsubscribe you from these catalogs. You need to keep them, and then there are references like on your address with specific numbers, and then the unsubscription will be automatic. I mean, made by the website. Another one is bank offers. I remember when we moved to the Bay Area, like we started receiving all these bank offers that we really didn't need. And so opt-out pre-screen is a great way to get rid of all these letters. And then the last one that I recently discovered is the Data and Marketing Association. They are the ones who send all these mails, unwanted mails. But you can also, if you give them $2, they're gonna unsubscribe you from all their catalogs for 10 years. So it takes 5 minutes and it's really worth it. The last resort is to contact the company directly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I know I still have 1 or 2 catalogs that I just can't get rid of, unfortunately, but it's like a lot less than what I used to have. So the third step is reuse, and it goes with repair and borrow. A great resource, I don't know if you know it, so the Buy Nothing project, it's a worldwide project. It started in Germany. And it's on Facebook. So for example, I live in Albany and I have a Buy Nothing group in Albany. In Berkeley, there are, I think, 4 or 5 different groups. It's by neighborhood. And it's basically you and your neighbors not even exchanging, you give stuff, like things that you don't need anymore, you give them away. Someone will take it most of the time. And it can really be anything. I know that like once I asked for paper clips and I got a whole box. And then like you can give away and you can ask, and most of the time it works, and it's really cool because you get to know your neighbors, and you know that your stuff that you don't use are going to be reused and someone will do something with them. So I love my local Buy Nothing group. So other places where you can buy secondhand, again, because secondhand is like another amazing way to save natural resources, energy, like everything. So Nextdoor, Craigslist, you probably know already, ThreadUp for clothes. We're lucky in the Bay Area, we have like a ton of local secondhand stores for pretty much anything. I really like the repair cafes and the fix-it clinics. So these are usually events organized by the city, but they both have websites. So they organize events. You have to check on their website for the dates, and it's run by a bunch of volunteers. And you can bring your, I don't know, broken clock, broken bike, and the volunteers are gonna help you repair it. It's all free. You can make a donation. You can also be a volunteer and help repairing stuff. It's an amazing resource. And then the last one, it's brand new and it's my new favorite local business. It's called Dispatch Goods. And basically they work with restaurants to provide reusable takeout food containers. So which means no more single-use plastic containers when you order to go, which is, according to me, a revolution. Last one is compost. So composting, like really taking all your organic materials and making sure that they're gonna end up in your compost, is one of the biggest action we can make to reduce greenhouse gases emissions. Because when these organic materials end up in the landfill, they're gonna emit methane, which is much more powerful in terms of greenhouse gases than CO2. So one thing that you can start doing right away is making sure that you're doing your compost well. We're so lucky in the Bay Area to have city compost. when I was in France, in Paris, there was no city compost. And like, that's one of the first thing I started doing when we moved here. There's one, so remove the stickers on your produce, of course, because they are in plastic and you don't want to contaminate the compost with that. And then there's the issue with compostable plastics. So I know that in Albany, they don't accept them anymore. They don't, so if I have like a compostable plastic cup, I can't put it in the compost. There are a lot of doubts on the compostability of these items. So whenever you can, just avoid them. All right, so I'm gonna switch to more examples of what you can do. So for example, when you go grocery shopping, I know now it's COVID, so let's talk about outside of COVID. Like, there are very simple things like bring your bags, but not just the big bags. You can also have produce bags. So you don't have to get all the plastic bags from your grocery store. You can bring your jars. I usually, like before COVID, I was going to El Cerrito Natural Grocery or Whole Foods with all my bags and just get everything I need in bulk. And there's like a lot of stuff that you can buy in bulk, so zero packaging, and you buy as much as you need. Another great system that I hope will be developed by a lot more companies is consigned bottles. So you probably also the Strauss milk bottles in your local store. This is an amazing system. And then I wanted to highlight this company. It's called The Silo, and you can order online and you get local organic food delivered in just paper bags. So it's like bulk, except it's delivered to your door. It's in paper bags for now. They're hoping to switch to jars, to reusable jars, but for now it works great. So that's for one. Then in your kitchen, I'm just checking the time. So in your kitchen, you can, so I was saying no more paper towels in my house, and we just replaced them with kitchen towels and a bunch of rags. And then you can replace your, if you use plastic film, you can replace it with, these are beeswax wraps, or these are bowl covers made in fabric, natural fabric, and that you can just wash. You can make your own all-purpose cleaner, or you can buy one in bulk. Swedish dishcloths over there are just amazing. These are stuff that you can reuse for a year. You can wash them, and they also replace paper towels, sponges, like all of those. There are compostable brushes on the market. So then you can get, that's what we do at Fillgood. So we get cleaning kitchen products in bulk. So we deliver in jars, or you can bring your own jar to the store and refill it. And then the last one is a solid dish soap. And I think one of the big things that happened with the development of the zero waste movement is that companies are getting super creative. And now there's a lot of solid products to replace liquid products, and so to avoid any type of bottle and packaging. So solid dish soap, that's one of my favorite stuff. And then we'll talk later about other solid products. When you're on the go, you can carry utensils with you. You can go to a cafe and bring your own mug, bring your bags. One tip, when I go to a restaurant, I always have a container with me for leftover food. So I just take it in my kitchen, put it in my bag. And so I'm sure that I'm not gonna leave the restaurant with a plastic container that I didn't want. And I don't wanna waste the food, so. In the bathroom, tons of swap. So we're talking about solid products. There is, of course, bar soaps, super easy swap. Solid shampoo, shampoo bars. Solid toothpaste. So these are toothpaste tablets. And it's fun to use even for kids. There are bamboo toothbrushes where the whole handle is compostable, only the bristles go in the trash. There is now compostable floss and like a lot of reusable items like cotton rounds that you can wash and reuse. And also this company, so these are liquid products, but the bottles are refillable, meaning that the company will take them back, clean them, and refill them with the same product. So it's a completely closed loop system. A couple of more example. One also super popular product is, instead of using all these plastics disposable razors, you can replace them all with a stainless steel razor that's gonna last forever. The refills are just the blades. The blades are recyclable. This company actually recycles the blade and turns them into utensils. So that's a great swap. You can get some products in compostable paper tubes instead of the plastic tubes. And then there are toilet paper wrapped in paper and not in plastic, reusable menstrual products. The last one, what I'm showing, it's a picture that I took. It's microfibers from clothes. And so the bag, what you see in the back is a bag. So it's called a goopy bag. And first of all, like, try to avoid any synthetic clothing. But with what you have, if you put them in this bag, it's gonna trap the microplastic generated by the synthetic products, the synthetic clothing, because the fibers are microplastic. So everything like nylon and polyester, if you don't use a kind of a filter, they go into the water, and then they're released in the ocean. And today it's a huge source of microplastics. So these bags are an easy way to catch some of these microplastics. I'm almost done. The last one is that these are individual actions that we can do at home, but then there are other types of individual actions that lead to collective actions. And you probably already had the debate at home or with friends, like, okay, but this is just one straw, this is just one toothbrush. I love that quote by one of my favorite climate advocates, Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. And she says that if you think about your actions as a form of communication, as an invitation for others to join you, then your simple individual action can lead to other actions that can actually lead to a bigger change. And so whenever you're ready, once you're done with, making changes at home, there are other things. The next step, I would say, or maybe you'll do both at the same time, is to work on these small actions that bring collective actions, like all the petitions that you can find. And that really works. That really has an impact. I get a ton of examples. Vote, of course, for people who support environmental regulations. Write to your local representatives. They'll listen, they read, they have teams to do that. There are tons of local nonprofits in the Bay Area that work on amazing environmental projects. So volunteering a few hours to help them is also a great thing to do. And you can also write to companies and ask them for change if you're not happy with, you love their products, but you don't like the packaging. They also listen. So I gave you a few examples of organizations that I personally really like. I am also sharing more information. I put all the links. So local organization, I particularly love Heirs to Our Oceans because it's run by kids. It started in the Bay Area and they are chapters everywhere in the world. And they are working on a lot of awesome, super cool projects for kids. The Story of Stuff project, they have really nice videos that you can watch with your kids. The last one being The Story of Plastic. A couple of movies, books, my favorite podcast, How to Save a Planet. Facebook group if you want to join, and a couple of zero waste local businesses if you want to dive in and see what they're doing. They are all doing great things. I am done. Thank you for listening. And so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'll take questions after Alison's presentation.
That was awesome, Stephanie. Thank you. So many amazing points in there, and I love seeing like the actual swaps and things. And so I will specifically talk about reducing food waste by meal planning and how to think about your grocery list. But just one sort of mindset and attitude that you have about reducing, I just want to echo because I completely feel the same way, which is to start small and start where it feels possible. I feel like this eco guilt, which I definitely feel sometimes, of thinking you need to do everything better when you wake up tomorrow or every Monday or New Year's resolutions. And it's so easy to like estimate what you're actually capable of doing. And then you feel bad about failing at it or not doing enough fast enough, and then you end up stopping. So what I recommend to people, people ask me about like plastic in the grocery store, and if you just go to Safeway and that's what you have to do every once in a while, it's really hard to kind of start making those choices. So I always tell them, instead of taking your 50 item grocery list and trying to be completely plastic free today, just choose one thing you buy all the time. How can you buy rice without plastic? And then you find a new brand and a new way of buying rice. And then next week you can choose 2 more items. And then as those become like your brand loyalty, you can kind of slowly make these changes. And pretty soon you're going to have a dozen changes made, and it will be just so much easier. And there's so much to making small behavior changes like this that are really psychological, and the feeling of doing it well and being a little bit proud of ourselves for making these changes is what inspires you to kind of keep going and like level up for more. And then the other thing I just want to quickly echo that I completely also agree with is that we need individual behavior change, because that's what inspires the people around us, our neighbors, our community. That's how we teach our kids. They see our actions. But also at the end of the day, if you throw away a cucumber, it's not going to make or break the future of the world. We also need systemic change. So we need the government to set regulations on expiration dates and communicate to us what that means. We need curbside composting in every city across the country. We need systemic meets individual, but you can't have one without the other. So individual changes, kind of what we're talking about here today, can be really, really powerful. But my favorite reason to talk about individual changes is because you don't need anyone's permission. I get really bored quickly and tired of like waiting for the government to do something and calling my representative, and I don't know if it's working. But individual changes are really a way that you can feel the effects of what you care about in your community and among your friend group, or even just in your household, because you can start now. I always joke that the best act of like resistance to help the planet is to just go eat that banana that's sitting in your fruit bowl that you know is going to be too brown in 2 days, and yet you're just looking at it and it's like a standoff between you and that banana. It's like the lowest threshold. It costs no money. Just go and eat it. You already bought it, just eat it. And you get started there and you kind of build up. So food waste specifically, or make a smoothie, exactly. Food waste specifically is such a really great opportunity for us to have a difference in overall carbon emissions, or just kind of putting out what we want to see in the world. When you look at the supply chain, and there are tons of images, I would be happy to share a group called Refed I'll type that in the chat. They have lots of pretty graphs and things like that I did not collect because I wanted to be able to see you. But if you think about the supply chain from farm to manufacturing to restaurants to grocery stores and then to your own home, food is wasted at every point in the supply chain, and there is opportunity for doing things differently. But the largest percentage of food that's wasted is actually in our own homes. So you'll hear a lot about farm or manufacturing maybe, or how much food grocery stores throw away, but there's actually more in our own homes. And this is where that idea of like, it's just one straw set a million people comes into play. So it really starts to add up. And then super interestingly, I always think as well, is that restaurants are high on the list too of how much food they waste. But when you dig into that and you look at where food is wasted in a restaurant, it's not the chefs, it's not the restaurant owners. They don't have enough money to waste. It's such a razor thin margin in the business. It's still us. It's the consumers who come into the restaurant, over order, have leftovers, don't bring their containers, don't take them home, and then they don't eat that food when it goes home. So that's still considered restaurant waste, but I would argue it's also on us. That's also consumer waste. So when you add those two parts together, we really have, a great opportunity to make some changes. So I am going to show you my 10-step, no stress, no waste plan to how to write a meal plan each week. First, I will show you what my actual meal plan looks like. So as Sasha said, I have a meal planning business. People sign up, they pay me $10 a month, and I send them 6 recipe ideas every week. And I specifically put the recipes together so they fit like a puzzle. You use half an onion on Monday night, the other half an onion on Thursday night. So that's kind of it. It's not an app where you drag things in, you don't bring your own recipes. It's honestly more just think of me as your personal chef, choosing the recipes for you that fit together so you don't have to think about, you have an extra half bunch of mint, they just effortlessly fit into the recipes. And I was a personal chef for a really long time. When I write my meal plan for my family, it looks like this. I've tried all the apps, all the websites. I've owned multiple businesses in the heart of Silicon Valley. You cannot beat a piece of scrap paper. So there was a coloring template on the back and a pen. It doesn't, I feel like meal plan gets, it's a hashtag in front of it. And all of a sudden it's this big thing. It makes people feel really overwhelmed or, oh my God, where am I going to find 3 hours to do this on the weekend? Honestly, meal plan can be as simple as each day of the week and a pen, and you just jot down what you're going to have. If your kids are older, the only difference I recommend, if they can read, is that you post this somewhere where everybody can see it, because there's also really something to the mental labor. And frankly, it's a lot of women carrying this around this is their responsibility, but that just endless, it's relentless. It's the every night question of what's for dinner? What are we having for dinner? What are we having for dinner? It's exhausting. So if you're going to take the time to do a meal plan, post it where everyone can read it. And then your answer to, hey, what's for dinner just becomes, you just point at the sign. You can take that out of your head. You do not need to carry that around all week, every week. The last part I love about writing a meal plan for little kids is like my son loves Annie's mac and cheese. I am a professional chef. I've cooked for Kamala Harris. My son prefers Annie's mac and cheese to literally every other meal. So I put it on the meal plan. I don't really have a huge problem with him having it every once in a while. It makes him super happy. Food makes us happy. On a busy night, sure, he can have it. It kills me a little bit inside, but I don't have a huge problem with it. But I put it on the meal plan. So it isn't that I've cooked dinner and then I sit down and he says, I refuse to eat this. Go make me my mac and cheese. I just point to the meal plan. I'm like, I can't make it. It's Tuesday. We're having mac and cheese on Thursday. So it kind of diffuses that choosy eater situation just by like blaming it on the meal plan. And I've not ever had them connect and be like, yeah, but Ma, you wrote the meal plan. They haven't quite made that connection yet. So it really works to just say, this is what we've decided. And then the other part is you can have them help you do this. So I also have a kindergartner, and I'll find, a time where maybe she's coloring or she's building with blocks or whatnot. And I'm sitting there sort of just watching. I'll say, hey, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? And I get out my pen. I ask her to brainstorm ideas. A couple weeks ago, she wanted pancakes for dinner. And I thought, okay, we'll do pancakes for dinner. That's a great idea. How are we going to make that a healthy and complete meal? She's like, let's have some broccoli on the side. All right, we'll have pancakes and broccoli. But it gives them some buy-in, and then it's not just mom or mom and dad or the caretakers who are the ones that really have to carry this a lot. And when we're talking about meal planning, it's the act of doing it ahead of time. And it just, if you're not folding it into your life in a seamless way, it really can start to feel like another chore rather than something that really does help you. All right, so now I'm going to show you this after all of my ramp up. So this is what my meal plans look like. We've been trying this version by PDF. I do have an app as well, but this version actually shows the kid-friendly hacks. I cook for so many families with super picky or choosy eaters, and that's the new thing I want to solve, is to get some eaters here. Okay, so here we go. It'll come back to the words at the end, but here is my 10-step waste less, stress less meal planning. So we'll go through these one by one. Here we go. We'll come back to this list at the end too, if you want to take a screenshot. Oh no, this is the end, sorry. Okay, so number one, instead of writing a meal plan when you're in the line at the grocery store or in the parking lot at the grocery store, to reduce food waste with a meal plan, you really have to start at your house. So I recommend looking into your fridge and looking at the things that will go bad in the next day or two. You want to look at your fridge every single time you shop. And then maybe every other time you write a meal plan, also look in your pantry. Things in your pantry probably aren't going to go bad in the next couple of days, but maybe there's half a box of spaghetti, or maybe there's a bag of quinoa that's been around for too long. And that would be a good inspiration for a recipe, number one, but also something you want to use up so you can clean out the container and go to it next time. The other thing you want to think about in your meal plan is your family calendar for the upcoming week. So a major place that people go wrong with writing a meal plan is by being way too ambitious and completely out of touch with what their life really looks like. So then we get into this situation again where you decided you were going to cook 7 new recipes this week every single night, but actually your kids had soccer practice on Wednesday and your partner is working late and it was just you, and then you got a Thai craving, so you ordered out instead. So I really want you to put all of those moments into your meal plan. Look at your busiest nights, who has late meetings, who's getting shuttled around town, and put in takeout, because we're going to have it. We live in I don't anymore, but you live in an amazing food area and you want to support your local restaurants. So it's okay. Just put it in on the meal plan and be really honest with what your life looks like. And then the heart stands for your cravings as well. So I want food to be fun. Maybe not every night, it's not the most fun, but did you see an Instagram influencer who made amazing nachos this week? Or, somebody was having a lasagna and you just had this crazy craving for your grandma's lasagna. Put that down on an ideas list so that you're putting meals on the meal plan that you're really excited to cook and eat, because it will make the whole process just a little more fun. And this goes to, what I was saying, to let your kids do it too. If my daughter's craving pancakes, let's accept her as, a member of the household and get her to help me in the process, but we can put her cravings on there too. Just because she's 6, we're not going to ignore her as long as she's participating in the rest of the process. So then this step stands for having a list of ideas. We do tend to come up with ideas in motion a little more easily than the moment where you have your blank week in front of you and you're like, okay, let's write a meal plan. And then you're sitting there and you go, I can't even think of food at all. What do I ever eat? And no ideas exist anymore. So if you keep a list in whatever method is easiest for you, I use a combination of saving pictures and recipes on Instagram into a folder. And then I also just have a notes app where I put ideas as well. So then you can kind of go back and actually select your recipes or select your dishes and plug them into your calendar. So we're going to have lasagna on Monday. We're going to have takeout on Tuesday. We'll have pancakes on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I'm going to put in a leftover slot. That's a busy night in my household. I don't want to be cooking from scratch. And I can tell by looking at that, I'm going to have lasagna left over, and maybe I'll double the batch of pancakes because I know that's such a win with my kids. So they'll have, some version of that the next night. So even put takeout and leftovers on your meal plan. Then while you're going through this process, because you're coming up with these recipe ideas anyway, I want you to actually collect the recipes that you need to pull off these dishes. So if that's in a cookbook, make sure you mark it down, write the name of the book, and leave that book out so that if you do your plan on a Saturday and then you're cooking this on a Wednesday, don't do the work twice and have to go hunt down those recipes again, or forget which, salad was super exciting to you and you put it on your plan. Actually mark them down. And then if you're somebody who prints recipes or saves them from the internet, just make sure you do that work so you have everything ready to go the second when you go to cook them, which will be the second time you basically encounter that recipe. The other benefit of that is the next moment to reduce your food waste. So this is really the biggest moment, perhaps, aside from eating your leftovers, in the whole thing to reduce your food waste. This is to refuse. So like Stephanie was saying, like this is the highest part of the pyramid. When I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I feel like it started with reduce. Yeah, reduce. And now we've added refuse. So refuse is really the best moment for your wallet. And it's really the best thing you can do because you're not bringing into your house more than you can actually eat. So while you're writing your grocery list for the recipes that you've pulled together, look for moments where, let's say you pulled a chicken with broccoli. Now you can think this through and you're like, all right, well, I know I'm going to use the broccoli florets with the chicken. What can I do with the broccoli stems? And then these are things where, again, I want you to take it slowly and just get started at getting better with this, but you can make a stir fry. You could go on my website and Google what to do with broccoli stems and I'll deliver a recipe. Maybe it'll be a broccoli soup that week, or maybe it'll be a broccoli lasagna actually. So maybe that's how you tie them together. So at first, don't try to tie every little thing in, because if you haven't done this before, this will suck up all your time and you will spend 2 hours doing this. But just start with one item that you know you'll have left over. How can you fold that into a second recipe on your meal plan? And then when you're writing down all the ingredients you need to pull off these recipes for your grocery list, make sure you're doing this in your kitchen so that you can actually check it against what you have, so that you aren't bringing home more than you actually need. And honestly, if there's really only one thing that you do based on my half of this presentation, would be that. Write a grocery list while you're in your kitchen so you can actually see what you have, because you can't memorize it. And then cross those things off your list, or even better, make substitutions with what you already have to pull off the same recipes, but without over purchasing. And then you shop, and then you cook, and then you eat. Second half is pretty easy. So there's the list again. And it just goes in a nice cycle. Oh, the one thing that is not written on here, but I would say, is to leverage your freezer, and also in meal planning to leverage your freezer. But I only check my freezer maybe once every 2 or 3 times I write a meal plan, because I know I have some distance with those foods in there. So it doesn't have to be every single week. I'm not always pulling out a freezer meal or putting one in. But if you check your fridge every time, your pantry every other time, you can kind of check your freezer either alternating or every 3rd time, so that those things that have a longer shelf life get folded in, but you're not constantly doing, a ton of inventory to make it happen. All right. With that, I will say I love getting messages on my Instagram. So if you ever have any specific questions about meal planning or reducing food waste or specific parts of vegetables, feel free to find me on Instagram at Ends+Stems, and you can send me a message. I'm pretty good at checking my message. But I think Sasha is going to lead us through some Q&A. So if anybody has any other questions, put them in the chat, and then Stephanie and I will answer a few questions.
That was amazing. I feel so convinced and like that I can do it and I can make some change in my life. I really like that you said that I don't have to do everything all at once, but that I can sort of like take my time and do small steps. So thank you so much for this incredible presentation. Well, looks like everyone's agreeing with me on the chat. So the questions that were asked in the chat, Stephanie answered about the shampoo, but I did have one for both of you, Alison. This is mostly directed towards your presentation. What's one staple in your recipes that you feel like you consistently go to? Is there a food or like a spice or anything that you just feel like it should be in everybody's kitchen?
I do feel like I rotate through. So I'll get really fixated on something, then I can't stop using it. Recently it was coconut milk. I just feel like it has such amazing flavor. It mixes with so many spices. It's good with, one of my favorites is like, you bring coconut milk just to a gentle simmer and you put peeled garnet yams, sweet potatoes, thinly sliced, and then a sliced red onion, lime, and a dash of fish sauce, and just let it simmer. And it's one of those things that's more than the sum of its parts. It's so simple and humble, but something about the ingredients coming together, served over like white or brown rice, is just so good. So I got obsessed with making that recently, pouring coconut milk into soup, but it does rotate. It changes maybe with the seasons, or once I get bored, I'll find something new.
That sounds so good. I agree with Maria. I'm hungry already. And then you all talking about these things have just made me even hungrier. Alison, do you think that as a treat, as a little party favor, you don't mind sharing the recipe with me, and then I can send it to the people that were on this call? Would that be possible?
I do have it written down. Actually, sometimes I put my foot in my mouth by saying something that I don't have tested into a recipe, but I do have that one, and I would be happy to share it with you.
Amazing. Okay, great. And if anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to let you all unmute yourselves and ask the question. If not, I think Brian has a really exciting announcement as to who won the gift cards. So I don't know if Brian wants to take it over.
I am so excited to announce that Julie Ellie, yes, Julie, you've won a gift certificate to Fillgood. And we're going to follow up with you. And Ludovic, you have won a gift certificate to Alison Mountford's meal planning service, which I'm also going to sign up for because you have totally sold me. And I'm going to bring jars to the store.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much, Alison and Stephanie, for doing this. This has been a very snappy hour with lots of tips and tricks. Anybody else want to grab the floor for a second? Otherwise, thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks for having us. It's nice to meet you all.
Oh, and remember, get involved with PA and sustainability efforts at askpa.eb.org.
Thank you so much. If you guys can share your presentations or just any of those resources, I think we could share them via the Gazette because these tips and resources are so amazing. I think people will learn a lot just from reading about them as well.
Would love to have those also.
That sounds great.
That was fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.